Hi, you're listening to the Rosenfeld Review. I'm Lou Rosenfeld, your host. Today is all about design operations, and we have a fantastic guest who knows maybe more about design ops as an industry more than anyone on the planet at this point in time. That's Angelos Arnis, who many of you know. He's been involved in many design operations events as the curator of the Joint Futures Conference. He is the DesignOps lead at the Posti Group. That's basically, for those of us who aren't in Finland, that's the post office in Finland. Angelos, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me here, Logan, for the great intro as well.
Well, it's great to have you. Angelos is joining us. I can see him, and he's in a very kind of... he's got the lights down low. It's about 9:30 p.m. on a Thursday night in Helsinki, and he's drinking, it looks like a glass of red wine. Tell me that's red wine and not juicy juice for your kid.
Yeah, unfortunately it's Pepsi Max, but I could have told wine as well.
I'm shocked. I always assume anyone in Europe is so much more sophisticated than I am, and would be drinking the finest wine.
Probably.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us, Angelos. Angelos is speaking at the DesignOps Summit we're putting on. I think it's number 5, Angelos. I can't believe it. And it's going to be September 29th through October 1st. And this one is virtual, hopefully the last all virtual or only virtual one we'll ever do. Fingers crossed. And Angelos is giving a talk on his research on the State of DesignOps 2021 Global Report. And so I've convinced him to give us a few highlights, to give us a taste of his research. So let's start off by just talking about the research itself. What did you do? How many people did you talk with? What instruments did you use to try to get at the state of DesignOps?
Yeah, so it started with, first of all, with me wanting to understand myself more of what everyone else is doing, because, I want to have an idea if what I want to do at my job is the right thing to do. So what's best than to ask a lot of other people, what are they doing as well? So this is how it started as an idea. And
how many have you done so far? I'm sorry, this is what number... Is this 2, 3? Or you've done this, is this the first one?
This is the first one.
I feel like you were doing this in the past. I know you were asking good questions. Maybe I just assume you went ahead and answered them a year or two ago. But now, regardless, it's great that you're putting it together in something formal.
Yeah, it's a good basis to start from, I think, now, because we have now something, and the next year we're going to do also comparisons, because we're going to have the data from this year and hopefully more data next year by possibly letting more people into this research. But yeah, the second part was to actually do research and kind of train my skills, understand what kind of tools I can use in scrappy ways, of course, kind of I didn't have a budget for this or a company to back me up. So those two were the main drivers. And so, yeah, I started by searching basically online and finding benchmarking other types of state of something or researches that just out there. And so I started formulating the questions, and I used Typeform for asking the questions through a survey. And then when I got all the questions answered by many people, and I just put a deadline as well. Then after the deadline, I started to analyze the data with Tableau Public, which was the free version of Tableau. So I had this free tool, so to speak, that they were really giving me this hands-on experience to do this work.
And what were the big questions?
Big questions. Well, of course, because I also asked online a lot of people to give me ideas, what kind of questions do you want to get answered? A lot of people obviously we're asking about roles, about salaries, about the activities as well, the things that I was interested in. And yeah, I think these were kind of like, the main subjects that.
Did you find that obviously you got questions from the community as well as
Mhm.
answers. So when you were getting those questions, were you seeing questions that seemed to be coming from people who were trying to relate design ops to their organizations? They're asking about team size, things like that, or were they asking more typically about their own careers, how to get into design ops? What you mentioned, salary, things about how they should function in design
Mhm.
ops.
I think it's a mixture of those things because through the data, we can see that well, obviously it's a profession that is rather young, and people are kind of like getting into it, and some of them have been there for like a year or a little bit more. Some of them have been for a long time, it seems, but those numbers were of course kind of like lower than the ones who are uh, entering them,
Mm-hmm.
the profession itself. So of course many questions would be around, like my guess is, well, what is the typical salary? I want to know if I'm getting what I'm worth, for example, or how can I move forward. So I want to ask about what kind of levels of design ops roles exist. Like, can I go to director if I'm a lead designer, for example? Can I go up? Is there a ladder?
Mm-hmm. So one of the things I always find really hard about doing any type of survey over a global audience, especially when you're talking about things like money, is how that's different from place to place. And
Yeah.
place isn't just countries; it's also places within countries. What someone is earning in London might be very different than what they're earning in Newcastle. So,
Mhm.
did you have a did you rely? Are you relying mostly on a tool like Tableau to allow people to slice and dice the data as much as they need to, or are you having to do any kind of I don't know, correcting or normalizing of responses based on things like geography?
I've done some cross-cut comparisons between basically location and salary. First of all, I think one of the questions was, how much do you earn? And we had to set a basis. So that was like, how much do you earn in US dollars?
Mm-hmm.
And then asking, where is your salary based? Like, is it in Europe, for example, or in some other place in US? But of course, it was also an open question. So like people could tell us exactly the place that they were. And so you can, sorry. And so I did this cross-cut comparison where I put the countries and then how much people earn in that country, and then you can see in one of the annex slides that we have towards the end of the report that that many people in the US gain that much money, and then in Europe it looks a little bit different perhaps, and then in the rest of the world it also looks a little bit more different. So there's many differences, but the highest salaries are in the US, so it seems, at least.
Okay, so that's not surprising. U.S. is on the high end. Talk a little bit about that. Is it way higher than in other parts of the world? And I'm also wondering, anecdotally, if you have a sense of how design ops salaries compare to, I don't know, the salaries of independent contributors or other people who might be on design teams.
Yeah, so as an example, in the US, the majority of the participants of the research are reporting a salary of 100K to more than 200K. While in Europe, the majority of the participants report a salary of 50K to 99K. So, like, you can see the difference in the region specifically, but of course, we have to take into account the like things like taxation and welfare and all other
Right.
kind of things that are there. I know from the European perspective, for example, from my previous jobs, that the salary of a DesignOps professional doesn't seem to bring you a salary rise, so to speak. However, I'm not sure what that means in US terms, and if there's a certain boost that comes with the position as well.
Oh, interesting. So I've always operated under the assumption that a design ops role is a reasonable jumping off point to go into more of a leadership role for the whole design organization. So maybe it doesn't bring you up higher salary-wise, but it positions you and puts you in a good place. Why don't we'll take a break and we'll come back and talk about how DesignOps fits into sort of the broader career evolution path that people look at these days in design. So let's take a quick break. You're listening to the Rosenfeld Review. I hope you're enjoying the podcast. If you want more, not only do we have a whole bunch of podcasts in our archive, but we have something that's very current, very alive, and very engaging for groups, and that is our communities. Rosenfeld Media runs a variety of communities that meet on a monthly basis for video conferences on a variety of topics near and dear to UX people, ranging from enterprise experience to advancing research to design and research operations. I want to encourage you to join one of our communities. Again, it is free by going to rosenfeldmedia.com/communities. Not only will you get a monthly video conference that you can listen in on and participate in, ask questions and so forth. We'll give you access to the recordings. And for some of those communities, we're talking about dozens of recordings with really interesting presenters and facilitators. You'll also get a newsletter. You'll get access to an advice columnist. Yes, we actually are providing advice columnists for each community. And finally, if you're interested in our conferences, our communities correspond to our conferences. So you will be the first to know when programs go live, when tickets go on sale, and by the way, most of our conferences sell out, and other good things about our conferences, such as when the scholarship applications open up. So go to rosenfeldmedia.com/communities. You're going to find something that's free, something that's interesting, and it's a great opportunity to find your tribe as well. We'll see you there. Welcome back to the Rosenfeld Review. I'm Lou Rosenfeld with my guest, Angelos Arnis, one of the speakers at the upcoming DesignOps Summit. Hoping to see you there September 29th through October 1. It's a virtual conference. Angelos is talking about the State of DesignOps report for this year. He's just wrapping up the research. He's going to be sharing many of the results at the summit. So it's very fresh. It's not out yet. It's going to be out in the days to come. And we were talking about career evolution just a little while ago before the break. So one way we can often understand career evolution is it's a hard thing to ask about, but you can sort of uncover aspects of it by looking at things like how senior the role is. Is it seen as like a leadership role, a management role? And to whom does a design ops person typically report? So have you been able to delve into those areas in the report?
Yes. And it's quite interesting to see that most of the people, or a big majority of the people, identify as a manager. Another big majority identify as a director or senior director. And then the third bigger majority in that sense is also identifying as a lead designer or DesignOps lead or something like that. And those are the three that are noticeable right away. And then, of course, it goes all the way to senior or individual contributor and so on. And typically those people, DesignOps people, report to people like the head of design, or a VP or a chief operations officer, even a chief of staff, for example. This was one of the answers there. And the next level, if what I'm guessing is that this organization might have established a design ops organization within that design organization. They have a head of design ops or a design ops lead who the rest of the design ops people or program managers they report to.
Got it. Okay. So that gives a good flavor of the positioning of the person who's doing design ops. But what about the organizations themselves? Let's pivot to understanding the role that design ops is taking in terms of is it something we're seeing in large organizations or all kinds of sizes? Is there any sort of connection between the maturity of the practice and the size of the organization? What are you finding about the positioning of the practice?
The companies are all over the place. So like there's quite many startups that they also have design ops people. And there might be, for example, 5 designers and then a design ops person. And then there's of course companies that there are more than 20,000 people inside the company. And then you also find, of course, designers and design ops people in there. I cannot specifically recall right now any specific ratio that would be very interesting to find, because I tried to do some cross-cut analysis between design team and design ops people in those teams, and the numbers were really all over the place. Like there were no ratios to begin with. What I found interesting specifically was that teams of design ops people are rather small. So you will often find teams that they have one design ops person per 5 designers, or also one design ops person for 200 designers as well. So although the teams of designers, they might be huge, for example, like 200 people, still the teams of the design ops people are rather small.
So sounds like a lot of things are all over the place still, which is not really surprising given the youth of design operations.
Yeah.
Well, let me just ask you one more question. One last question really is what in general are you surprised by? What's been really interesting to you as you've gone through your research?
One of the most interesting tidbits of the report was that half of the participants are women. So this is not a male dominated profession, which is refreshing to see. And I really enjoyed seeing people responding to questions like whether they were remote before COVID, for example. And most of them reported that they were rarely remote or 1 or 2 days per week before the pandemic hit. But then after the pandemic hit, 90% of the participants are exclusively remote. And most of them either have no plans to yet go to the office, or they have plans to have a hybrid mix of work, remote or to the office, whatever they choose, or maybe based on, what the team wants, for example. And many, of course, have switched to exclusively remote, period. So this is like a new normal in a way.
That's interesting and not entirely surprising, but
No.
I'm really excited that we have Diane Gregorio and Kemi Reyes doing a workshop at the DesignOps Summit on managing, designing, developing hybrid approaches for design organizations. And good Lord, we all need that. Well, Angelos, you've just given us a lot of stuff to think about, and it's just a taste of the much larger report. I want to congratulate you on the hard work you've been doing over months and months, and thank you for doing it. I mean, you're doing a real service to the whole industry, and knowing you, it's not surprising that you would do such a thing. So thanks for your generosity. I'd like to finish all of our podcasts with a quick request for someone, something that's really stood out for you, something, a person, a book, an article that's really changed the way you think or has really helped you in your work. Does anything come to mind?
Yeah. So to understand the different work streams or activities of DesignOps people in their daily work, I read this amazing article by Rachel Postman that was called A Pocket Guide to Design Operations. It's a really eye-opening article for anyone who is interested to really understand what's going on in this profession. But nevertheless, it gave me a basis to ask questions to people in regards to those work streams. Like, for example, what aspects of communications are you using in your daily job, and what aspects of partnerships and culture and so on. So like we have a very good basis to understand what DesignOps people are doing. And I think that many people will find that very eye-opening. Also, a lot of people who are just starting their careers on this specific profession, and they want to get a clearer picture.
Well, that's great. We love Rachel Postman. She did a fantastic job presenting at last year's DesignOps Summit. And again, the reference, and we'll put the link in our description, A Pocket Guide to Design Operations. It's a piece Rachel wrote and published on Medium. Okay, well, Angelos, thank you. Thank you for joining us. Angelos Arnis, DesignOps lead at Posti Group. We'll see you in a few weeks at the summit.
Yes, and if I can say, I'm going to have some data from some qualitative interviews as well there. So we will see some more questions that I couldn't just quantify and make them as part of a survey.
So some qualitative to go along with your quantitative. That makes me smile. Thanks for that.
Yep.
All right. Thanks again, Angelos. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Rosenfeld Review, brought to you by Rosenfeld Media. If you like our show, please subscribe and review it on iTunes, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast platform. I'd love it if you tell a friend to have a listen, and check out our website for over 100 podcasts with other interesting people. You'll find them all at rosenfeldreview.com.